Welcome to Truth and Transcendence. You can find all our other episodes on truthandtranscendence.com. I'm delighted today to welcome special guest Sophie Malahieude, who's here today to talk about a number of things, and you can see her book on the shelf behind me. But we're going to kick off with talking about being curious about my mind, which may surprise you as a topic for Sophie to talk about because Sophie is actually worked with yoga for years and years. She's an emotional balance coach. She's author of Beyond Emotions, blending yoga, Ayurveda, breathwork, and self-inquiry to help midlife men and women move beyond emotional overwhelm and reconnect with their inner wisdom. Sophie's work invites people to see emotions not as problems, but as gateways to growth, clarity, and love. And if you get the book, which I recommend, you will find it beautifully laid out in there with lovely exercises and all sorts of things. So it's a beautiful piece of work. You can find Sophie at sophiemalahieude.com. And I'm not going to expect you to guess how to spell that. It's in the show notes. So Sophie, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be with you, Catherine.
Excellent. So, Sophie, we had a lovely conversation before, didn't we, about you, the person, and where all of this sort of came from. And you were sharing with me that you had this quite a strong curiosity about your mind and how your mind functions and how you might engage with that. Would you do us the honor of casting your mind back and remembering the first time that you really connected with that curiosity about your mind, and perhaps share that with us if you're happy to do that?
Yes, thank you. As I was a child, I can remember my first memories were when I was 7 or 8 years old, and I was doing some summer camp, and I was with the person who was taking care of us, and she said to us, "Do you have any weird question that come in your mind time to time?" And I raised my hand, like 8 years old, and say, "Well, I wonder why I'm on Earth." And it was my first encounter into asking myself, okay, should be something very that feel, I didn't have the word at that time, but more fulfilling. I was going to get up, go breakfast, go to school. I was looking for something deeper. I think that at that time I was already questioning my mind, understanding that there is probably many activities, many understanding I could gather and understand more the functioning of the mind. Later on, it transformed into being curious about my emotion. When I was crying, I was looking at myself in the mirror and looking at the tears, like my pain was my tears. So I didn't connect. And as I was looking in the mirror, looking at my tears, then my sadness suddenly disappeared. And I said, oh, this is interesting. In my mind, I can create my tears and my pain, but in my mind, I can stop that process. And so it was the way I encountered first the curiosity of the mind, which later on was reinforced when I started to my interest in yoga.
Ah, I see. And I could just imagine putting out a question like that to a group of children, and one of them puts their hand up and says, why am I on the planet, or why am I here, or whatever it is. How did she react to that? Do you remember?
Well, that's interesting because I guess that our leader, she was young. She probably was 25, and she looked at me and said, "Wow, you have this question. You know what? I have this same question. That's a great question to have." I was very happy because it validated my question, but we didn't go further. And I remember this day we were sitting in the street because we were waiting for another group. And I can really picture that and feel really content with myself, like I had achieved something.
But I love that. You were immediately sisters at that moment,
Yeah.
weren't you, in that.
Yeah. And I think that you have a very good point, is that we see ourselves as a body. We see ourselves that we are a woman or a man, or we are a different gender. Um, well, at the source of everything, there is soul connecting with other soul. So this 8 years old Sophie talking with this 25 years old leader, um, we were just connecting. And it's what I see in human being, that we are all here to connect with each other.
How beautiful and how lucky as well, because, some people would not have been able to respond in such a beautiful way to you.
Yes, yes, true,
So,
true.
so that is lovely. And who knows who she went home and spoke to about that?
Yeah,
Who knows
yeah,
what other ripple conversations came from that?
yeah, true, true.
So you moved forward in that beautiful place of curiosity. Did you discover yoga quickly, or did you explore other things before you discovered yoga?
I think I have always been curious of different activities. Uh, I was in my late 20s when I encountered the word yoga in a newspaper, and I was like, oh, this sounds very interesting, yoga. So I look in the dictionary what yoga was, and I understood it was coming from India, kind of a practice that was also spiritual. So I didn't know exactly what it was, and I went to my first yoga class. I was still living in France at that time. I didn't have the best experience in the world, as the teacher didn't want me in class. I was 26 or 27 years old. Um, my mind was really active. Like, the mind is always active. It always jumps from one thought to the other. As you practice yoga, you learn to center your attention into one point. Can be your breath, your feeling in your body, it can anything. So the teacher was looking at me during the class and didn't want me there. And I really felt that he didn't want me there. And at the end of the class, I came back to him and say, okay, I find it challenging, not the practice itself, not the practice of moving from one pose to the other, because it was very slow and we were holding the pose for a very long time. It was because I was observing that everyone around me, they were very quiet and peaceful, where I was all agitated in my mind. And I was thinking, yeah, this is exactly what I need. I find it very challenging, but it's what I need. And the teacher said to me, no, you are not or you are all over the place. I saw you in class. Yoga is not for you. Yoga is for people who are older. They are more mastering their emotion. They are more mastering their mind. I don't want you to see you again.
Ah, that's terrible.
Yeah, my first encounter with yoga. Yippee.
God.
So, but I think also, I believe that when your mind is open, you are sensitive and you can receive the sign you need to move forward. And so maybe a year later, we moved to Germany. And as we moved to Germany, I met my first yoga teacher, which was my husband colleague at work. So in the evening, he was teaching yoga once a week and invited in me. And a beautiful thing happened there is I was just learning German. So when I started to practice yoga, really, I was understanding maybe 30% of what people were saying around me. And this ability to be there, present, body, mind, spirit, focus on one movement, one breath, one thought. It was challenging. I was trying. And you know that is where you turn. Your mind is composed of two elements. Quickly saying concept, yogic concept. You have the ego that is built upon memory, like, dislike, and oriented you to the outer world. And you have the intellect. The intellect is everything that helps us to assess what is in the present moment. With the intellect, we are not judging. With the intellect, we are not posing between a present, future, or past. The intellect helps you to bring you in the present moment and assess what is. So as I was in this first yoga class with my new teacher, not understanding really what he was talking about, and I was more into my ego world, trying to project myself, to look at him, to understand what he was saying. He came to me and he said, Sophie, practice from your heart. And then it really helped me to quiet the ego, to give more room for the intellect. What do I feel? Where do I feel it? How is my breath? How is my thought? And I was always coming back to the present moment. And right there, I felt I was at home. And I was understanding the power of the mind, what I was discovered as a child. And now I say, oh, now I can understand what's going on with my mind. And I can reshape what needs to be reshaped, and I can enhance what is working good for me. Yeah.
Wow. Oh, amazing. Well, how fortunate that you found him. That's very handy, isn't it?
Yes, yes. I think that my first encounter with yoga was not really, it was not successful in a way that the teacher was not welcoming. At the same way, I understood that in the practice of yoga, there were more than I could, there were more to discover. And it's why when the second time I went and practiced yoga, I said, oh, now I have that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I will just say to anyone who's listening who may have heard ego and intellect defined, or those words used in a different way from how Sophie just explained them, just to say both of those terms are used in different ways in different ideologies and different modalities. And all of the different ways those words are used are very, very useful and powerful. So if anyone's sitting there thinking, no, that's not my understanding of what yoga is, or not my understanding of what intellect is, my invitation is to just put that to one side. It's not wrong. Put it to one side and just hear the way as Sophie is explaining it, because there's an enormous amount of value in this particular perspective or way of looking at these things. And Sophie, I wonder if you'd like to say anything more on that vein, just to clarify.
Yes. Yes, because the concept of the two parts of the mind, ego and intellect, they are coming from the yoga philosophy, from this old tradition, the Vedic tradition that is coming from India. It's a concept. Now, the ego, if you talk about more modern science in psychology, we can compare the ego with what is the conscious part of the mind, and the intellect, the unconscious and subconscious. So as we quiet everything that's going on in the mind, we can dive into the unknown that is creating in the back of our mind the pattern, our thought, our belief. So it's very interesting to say, okay, I need to quiet the ego to dive into whatever is in the back of my mind, and then question it. So let me give you an example. when I was a child, I learned to ride my bike. And my dad was there. It helped me, put me on my bike. And after a couple of try, I was able to be alone on my bike. So later on, fast forward, when I was about, I don't know, in my 30s, we started to drive the bike again with my husband. And I was always falling from my bike. And one day, my husband said to me, Sophie, it's so surprising that you are always falling. It's flat. There is no reason. And I understood that. At the same time, I was kind of embarrassed and a little ashamed. And so I was feeling excuses for why I was falling on my back. Until one day I decided, okay, Sophie, what's going on in there? And it's so, so interesting. What I discovered is that when I was learning to ride my bike with my dad, when I was falling, my dad was coming, just clean my knees and put me back on the bike and say, Sophie, we good, we try again. And so in the memory of learning riding the bike, one part was remembering that my dad was helping me. That's what I was remembering. But somewhere, part of me remember that my dad loved me because he was picking me up when I was falling. And so it created a pattern that if I fall down from my bike, someone is coming to pick me up. But guess what? When I was 30 years old, nobody was coming to pick me up. So when I brought to life this, unconscious part of my mind, then I use not the ego to judge it and say, oh, Sophie, it's bad, blah, blah, blah. I use the intellect in being curious. What do you want to do with that memory? Is it worth for you? Is the belief that when you fall down is true? That when you fall down, someone's going to pick you up. Is it true? And so when I did this self-inquiry with the intellect, the part of my mind that is deep down and that never has the time to express itself because the ego say, you know what, you ride the bike, you fall, someone just pick you up, blue, blue, blue. I was creating a pattern. So when I question it, so always remember that when you have an emotion, when you have a thought that is really a mechanic in your life, stop and question it. And when you question it, you are going to find answer, you have to find clarity, then you decide, do I want to keep this mind pattern of riding the bike fell? Do I want to change it? So I decided to change it. So it's always a balance between the ego and the intellect. The ego, in a way, still in my yogic approach and definition of the ego wants to protect. And how do you protect? By controlling. So if you had an experience, you ride the bike, you fall down, and someone just pick you up, it creates a good feeling that someone loves you. So the ego is not going to assess the new situation. You are 30 years old and your dad is not riding the bike with you. So you keep doing it even it's not serving you. And how do you break down from this belief and this mind pattern? By questioning it. How do you question it? By being curious. That's my first thing, being curious. Yes.
Beautiful. I could visualize all of that as you were just telling the stories of it. And it reminded me of something as well, which I think is a pattern, actually, the one of, it may not be falling off a bike, but it might be suffering or hurting ourselves or something, that some of us have a pattern of doing that to get love, to get compassion, without realizing that's what we're doing.
Yes.
And perhaps it's more common as a pattern for women, maybe, I don't know, but it's certainly, it's one I've come across as well. Just like some of us have a pattern, which is, I need to be strong and take care of everybody in order to be loved. You know, there are all these unconscious patterns.
Yes. Yes. And I would say that in addition is that we have a tendency to process everything in the mind. So we process our emotion in the mind, and it's always the ego that is talking the loudest. Now, how do you dive into your own being and say, you know what, ego, I need you. I need you to protect me. I need you when, I need to brake because there is a dog in front of my car. I need the ego to tell me, do that. At the same time, how do you deem the ego for a time being to assess where you are and decide where you want to do, where you want to go, is diving into your own body. We don't realize that in modern science, in modern science and modern medicine, we see the body as a mechanic, the mind as something else, the spirit as something else. Actually, we are human beings. We are whole. When we connect the body, the mind, and the spirit. When I was 8 years old and I was thinking, what I am on earth, what is the reason of me being here on earth? What I was looking for was the connection between my body, my mind, and my spirit. As moving forward through the practice of yoga, then I went there. By the way, there is not only one path to find wholeness. For me, yoga responded to what I was looking for, but it can be the way you are connecting. I don't know. You like to go always in the nature, and I remember a few weeks ago you interviewed someone about animalism. Then going into nature, connect with the trees, connect with the plants. Whatever the path you are choosing, then as you bring the body, the mind, and the spirit, you find the wholeness and you find the ability to live from a place of love. And I'm going to go back there, but let's come back to the idea that how do we redeem the ego to dive in and bring up the intellect in the present moment through the body. The body is always telling us the balance or the imbalance we have in our life. So as we dive into the body, we pause and we are curious and we are questioning. I had this experience. In 2016. I was holding the world together. I had moved from France to Germany to United States. I had 2 young children. I was studying yoga and teaching part-time. And I was a full-time caregiver. So I was putting all together, though the world was functioning. And I received a phone call in 2016 from my dad telling me that my mother passed away. And my world shattered, but at the same time, I didn't want to be in touch with myself. So I kept pushing forward until 4 months later, I couldn't breathe at all. I went to see the doctor. The doctor says that everything, the mechanic of my body was functioning properly. So I met my mentor. And I explained that everything was fine in my life, and my husband was fine, my children were fine, and was making peace with the passing of my mother, but I cannot breathe. And I said, oh, and I practice every day, and I do breathing exercise, but when I go up the stairs, I am out of breath. And she said to me, Sophie, we hold grief in our lungs. And even that I was studying yoga for all those years, I don't know, for so many years, for at least, or already for 12 years or 15 years, I understood the concept. I didn't know the concept. So when I was driving back home and say, okay, if I want to come back to this state of wholeness, I need to step away from my mind and dive into my body. And it's what I did. What I did, it was moving my body, circulate the emotion, because an emotion is an energy. Energy needs to move. When we don't let an emotion complete its cycle, it gets stuck. And if the mind, and we are mostly living in the mind, so if the mind say, okay, but you make peace with the passing of your moment, let's move on. Well, the body say, no, you are thinking your emotion. You are not feeling your emotion. So I'm going to bug you until you pay attention. Right?
Yeah.
And so I was fortunate not to wait too long that it turned into really kind of, I don't know, illness or depression or whatever it could have turned into. And I said, okay, what it is. And that was my journey. And so that journey was possible as I said, okay, I understand the ego. You try to protect me. So you say, oh, you're good. But actually, I was not good because I didn't let the emotion complete the cycle. And by the way, it's what the book is about, because behind emotion comes love.
Yes, that was so beautiful. By the way, I will just come in and say thank you so much for that. I totally got that. I totally was with you there because, and again, I've experienced times like that as well when I think I'm through something and my body is telling me I'm not. And the body is giving the information that I need
Yes.
for me to connect with something. Something you mentioned there, you were talking about coming away from the ego, and in order to come into that place where we can balance our emotions, having to go into the mind. And the thing that then came to me was, but sometimes when we go into the body, the emotions actually get much more extreme and more volatile, or they seem more volatile because we're more conscious of them. And so I think sometimes people find it difficult to, how can I put it, encounter that, okay, I want to come into the present so I can be whole and be still. But the process of that involves going into the body. And sometimes it feels less still than ever, so volatile and so explosive. So would you like to say something about that dynamic?
Yes, yes, because of course, there is resistance. When we are in a place that is unpleasant, we don't want to, the mind doesn't want to stay there. But actually, if we give ourselves space, so how do you give yourself space when you say, oh, you know what, I have this emotion, I would like to let it complete the cycle so I can feel free, I can feel live from a place of love instead of fear or anger or sadness. So we stay there. We have to give ourselves space. In the book, there is simple exercise. One that come in mind is that when you feel this unpleasantness, the awkwardness of the emotion rising, you want to be in a safe place. So maybe you want to be at home, you put a little music and then you dance and then you shake. What you want is helping the emotion to complete its cycle. So you need movement. You need movement. And when you start to be the movement, then you will feel release, which is the first step. So it means that, oh, okay, circulation is moving again. So I have more tools now to look at it, and be curious about it. There is a beautiful experience. I don't know if you are familiar with her work. Her name is Byron Katie, and she wrote a book. It's called Loving What Is. And she was in the bottom of 10 years of depression. And she was laying in the bathroom in the place she was staying for, so she could feel better because she had anorexia. So she was there and she was feeling her body. Her body was screaming in pain. And she stayed there. And instead of resisting the pain, she started to ask herself, but everything is in my mind. So the pain I feel in my body is for something that is stuck in my mind. And she started this self-inquiry of questioning on her own thought and say, if I can create the pain in my mind, then my body is telling me, do something about it. And she was rebuilding herself, and she came out with a concept, which is the work. And there is 4 questions. Is it true? Is it really true? How do I feel when I think that? Who would I be without this thought? And so my work is really about helping my client to dive into their body in a safe environment so they can question it and feel it without judgment. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be afraid. It's okay to be sad. What is it telling me? An emotion is not good or bad. An emotion is our teacher.
Yeah. Beautiful.
And yeah.
Thank you. Well, before we start running out of time, because this
Yes.
conversation, I mean, it's really, but I would really love to ask you about something that I picked up in the book where you were talking about that when we create this much better relationship with our emotions and we're not running away from our emotions and we are balancing ourselves, that what we find on the other side of that is love. And
Yeah.
I'd love you to say something. I mean, honestly, that's such an idea that could take a long, and obviously you had to write the book. Guys, you have to read the book. But would you please give us just a flavor of that notion?
Yes. You know, at the source of everything, it's love. You know, if you live from a place of love, you are open to understand other. You are open to respect other. They might not share the same value as you, but they are you are living in a place where there is no fear, there is no sadness, and there is no anger. I always, and I explain in the book, that for me, in the full spectrum of emotion, on one side there is fear, on one side there is love. When you are living in a place where there is a lot of fear in you and around you, you live in a place of scarcity. The body is going to be constricted. Energy is not moving. You are short of breath. So as you live this way, you have a hard time to be open to novelty, to the unknown. On the opposite side, when you say, okay, I'm just going to go and feel all those thoughts, all those emotions, and on the other side is always love. Because when you remove all the layer, I always like to imagine ourselves like, at the center of our being is a beautiful diamond. So, but the diamond cannot shine because we have all those, mind pattern, belief, emotion. So, but when we remove everything, there is always love. Always love. We have forgotten to naturally love. Look at a 1-year-old. There's just a little buddy running all around. It's just pure love. So It's what I really believe, that when we go through and we give ourselves grace to do the process, then we change and we are curious. When we are curious, we don't judge, and then there is just love. Yeah.
No, beautiful. Thank you so much. Well, that's completely opposite from the idea that you have to go and find love or create love, or
You are. Yeah.
that's what's there when we've cleared away all of the dross and the distraction.
Yes. Yes.
So beautiful. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Um,
Thank you.
Sophie, some of the people who tune into this podcast are, or maybe all of them, who knows, are actively in the world, working on being part of the solution, you might say, helping others, leading others, caring for others, in all kinds of different ways. And some of those people are listening to us right now. And is there anything you'd like to say to those people in relation to some of what we've been talking about today?
I would say that if you can visualize when you are in a plane, there is all those information in case there is a drop of oxygen. So what you do, you put the mask on yourself first, then you take the mask and you put on your child or someone near you. So that would be my message for everyone, is that take care of your thoughts, take care of your emotion, so you can move through life from a place of love. And it's how we act to transform the people around us and transform the world.
Amazing. Thank you. I think that's a really, really good idea. So let's remind people where to find you, which is sophiemalahieude.com. And obviously buy the book, Beyond Emotions. And also when you go on the website, everybody, you will find some beautiful little gifts on there from Sophie that will help you to actually take some of the first steps in relationship to what Sophie is kindly sharing with us in these different techniques. And actually in the book, each chapter has a series of exercises at the end, doesn't it? Which
Yes.
all, something I love about those, because again, some of what you're talking about could sound very, very daunting to people. But one thing I love in the book is how you weave it gently, layer by layer by layer by layer by layer. So by the end of it, you could have achieved a very powerful shift, but which never at any point felt scary or unsafe or, uh, punitive, or you know what I mean, damaging, brutal in any way. So I loved how you did that.
Thank you. Yes, it was my intention
Yes.
to really one step at a time. Yes.
Beautiful. Which of course is what one should do with yoga, isn't it? One of the things I've learned from yoga is this notion of not pushing when it feels wrong. And I can't
Yes.
tell you how long it's taken me to actually, some of the time, follow that.
Yeah.
In yoga, even though the teacher says it over and over again, and I know it and I know it and I know it, I'm still there and I'm going, oh, I can just stretch a little bit further. No.
Yeah.
And that's so powerful. That's so powerful. So, Sophie, we've talked about an awful lot today, which I thought we would. I didn't know exactly where we were going to go. Really beautiful. Has there been a favorite part of our conversation for you today?
Well, I enjoyed the entire conversation. I like to really explain the concept of ego and intellect. We don't realize how much the ego is important in our life and shape the life, not necessarily in the way that we want it to be. So being aware of it and coming back to assessing, living the body, and so we can live our life fully.
Thank you. Yeah, I thought that was a very, very powerful point as well, and such a good reminder. And I can hear my ego and other people's egos going, no, 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 don't listen to that.
It's okay. We all need the ego. The ego is here to protect us,
Yeah.
but it can be a little silent time to time.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Sophie. It's been such a joy. So
Thank you.
everybody, thank you so much for watching and for listening. Do go and check out Sophie's website. Do read the book, and do check out my other episodes on truthandtranscendence.com. And if you are on this path of exploring and being curious and coming back to yourself, and if you are thinking about looking for a coach, and if you think I might be good, check out my show notes where you'll find some little free offers where you can come and talk to me about that. So check out Sophie's work, check out my work, check out the podcast. Have a fantastic week filled with love, and I'll see you next time. And thank you again, Sophie.
Thank you.